Hi, I'm Saad Husain, and I'll be presenting on employee motivation as a part of my assignment of organizational behavior program. Presentation outline. In this presentation, I will be talking about importance of employee motivation in organizational performance, myths about employee motivation, Marsh's model of individual behavior and how it helps in identifying reasons for different behaviors and performances, counterproductive work behaviors, employee turnover, employee attendance, as these factors have a direct impact on performance and organizational effectiveness. And lastly, some strategies on employee motivation. Job characteristic model happens to be a brilliant tool to achieve employee motivation and increase engagement in employees. So I will be briefly talking about that. So why is employee motivation so important in organizational performance? There are several studies and researches that indicate towards the fact that employee motivation has a direct impact on the performance of the employees. Most of the major multinational companies, successful organizations, understand this and they emphasize a lot on having an engaged and intrinsically motivated workforce for this reason. Employee motivation enhances performance and productivity of employees. It generates higher revenue and profits. It results, there are studies that indicate how happy and satisfied employees are able to have a higher level of engagement with customers. As a result, better customer satisfaction scores, lower employee turnover. This is a very important area that HR professionals in today's time are focusing on with the labor shortage that is out there in the market. Employee retention happens to be a very critical aspect that is looked at by all HR professionals. A motivated employee is less likely to leave the organization and, for that matter, help in saving a lot of cost, money, and effort that goes in recruiting new employees. Higher sales figures for organizations that are engaged in sales. It is seen that if teams that are more motivated and engaged emotionally in their work are able to deliver higher sales figures, high quality of work, and a motivated workforce results in a conducive work environment, which is ideal for creativity, innovation, and overall, a motivated employee is more organizationally supportive to the organization. There is organizational citizenship that is achieved through employee motivation. And by organizational citizenship, we mean that the individual goes over and beyond their KPIs to meet the organization goals. They go the extra mile, whether it's in terms of putting in extra effort or going out of the way to ensure that the organization meets the goals. Developing an emotionally engaged and intrinsically motivated workforce is one of the most important HR issues today. And every organization focuses on different strategies to ensure that employees are engaged and motivated. And there are several factors that have to be taken into account to understand employee motivation. And this is why employee motivation turns out to be a very complex subject. As a people manager or as an HR professional, you need to understand human behavior, you need to understand human psychology. Every individual is different and they have different motivations. And this is what makes employee motivation such a important aspect in organizational performance. Knowing it can make world of a difference in the success that an organization can achieve. So HR professionals go to great length and extent in working on various initiatives and activities that help employee motivation. Reward and recognition, for instance. There are several rewards and recognition programs that are run by HR professionals and people managers in organization to keep the work more engaging and interesting and incentivized for the employees. Career and skills development initiatives are there to keep employees intellectually stimulated and give them opportunities to upgrade their professional skill set. As a result, help them move up the ladder in their career and also personally develop them. Inclusive and conducive work environment is one of the most important aspects that HR professionals focus on in today's extremely diverse work environments. Every individual has different needs, and people with different backgrounds, different cultures, and different values need to be attended to, and an inclusive and conducive work environment can ensure higher level of employee motivation. Work-life balance initiatives have been introduced by HR with the goal of, again, achieving higher motivation levels in employees by giving them more flexibility and lesser stress and more autonomy at work. Employee satisfaction surveys are conducted, focus group sessions are conducted, there are one-on-one meetings that are done by HR, all with the motive of getting to know more about employees, what they like, what they dislike, how they can make the work environment even more friendly and conducive so that they can work more efficiently. There are several team building and fun at work events that are organized with the same motive, again, to keep people engaged and motivated, and several customized perks and benefits. This and there are several other initiatives customized for different audiences, different employees, different departments, depending on the kind of work that a certain team or an organization is involved in. HR professionals always strategize and work towards their goal of having a motivated workforce because of the various reasons that we just mentioned. There are a lot of myths about employee motivation. These myths or misconceptions often come in our way of motivating employees effectively. And some of the myths are assuming an employee is unmotivated in itself is a misconception, because as a human being, all of us are motivated. We are motivated for different things. We have different motivation styles, but to claim that an individual is not motivated would be very incorrect. And I see a lot of times managers end up making this mistake and assuming that an individual is not motivated, and they try to use strategies to motivate the employee without going deeper and understanding why this person is not showing the performance that you expect. Why is the person not motivated to achieve the goals of the organization or whatever that individual's KPIs are? This can be done only if you go to the length, to the extent of finding out the intrinsic motivations of the employees. Without knowing that and just assuming that an individual is unmotivated, you will not be able to intrinsically engage the employee and hence not achieve employee motivation that you're targeting. Motivation is all about being energetic, and we cannot be more wrong in making these assumptions. We see in our day-to-day work environment, there are people who are extremely energetic and they have a certain personality that shows enthusiasm. However, employee motivation is goal driven. It is for a certain direction. You cannot be randomly motivated for things, because if someone is randomly motivated, it could result in counterproductive behaviors. You could be motivated for activities that are not relevant for the organization, or even worse, they may be impacting the organization negatively. So motivation is not synonymous to be energetic and enthusiastic. Money is the best motivator. There's several studies that indicate otherwise. However, a lot of managers have this assumption that as long as you give higher incentives or increase an individual's salary, the person will automatically be motivated. Money can be a motivator, but it'll be wrong to assume that it's the best motivator, because to be able to have sustained motivation level and to be able to encourage an individual to work intrinsically, be self-driven, there are several other factors that have to be taken into account. And there's so many studies that indicate and surveys that indicate that employees rate career development, more intellectually stimulating work, better relationships at work higher than money quite often. And that only indicates that monetary incentives may be a motivator, but they are certainly not the topmost motivator for an employee. One size fits all. This is a common mistake that a lot of managers end up making by coming up with, let's say, a reward and recognition program or an employee motivation strategy, which is generic. A generic employee motivation strategy will not work, because people come from different walks of life. They have different backgrounds. They have different motivation styles. And it's not practically possible to be able to motivate each and every individual with the same motivation strategy. These motivational strategies have to be customized for groups and different individuals, and that requires investing time in understanding their individual needs and differences. So these are some of the common myths that result in lower success rate in achieving employee motivation. So what is employee motivation actually? Employee motivation is the internal drive that an individual has that has effect on the direction in which the person is heading in terms of achieving the goals, the intensity that one puts in their efforts, whatever they do, how hard they are working towards it, how much time and energy are they investing. Persistence. How long do they continue to work towards achieving the goals? If an individual lacks persistence, this would mean the moment a person faces a certain failure or a challenge, they would give up. And that would mean that the motivation level of the employee is not where it's supposed to be. So depending on higher level of persistence, higher level of intensity, and correct direction, we can find out if an individual is motivated or not motivated. Marsh Model of Individual Behavior by Dr. Stephen McShane and Dr. Mary Ann Von Glenno is a very interesting model that talks about different factors that influence individual behavior. Marsh model is basically an acronym that stands for motivation, ability, role perception, and situational factors. All of these factors have an influence on an individual's behavior and performance, not just an individual. It could be an individual or it could be a team's performance. And by motivation, we mean the three factors that I already mentioned: direction, intensity, and persistence. And they indicate how motivated the individual is. By ability, we talk about the natural aptitudes, the natural skills and talents that an individual has, and learned capabilities, skills that they have learned over a period of time and they have developed through practice or training. Role perception plays an important role in individual or group's performance. Having role clarity, which is understanding what your job role is all about, understanding the significance of your job, how important it is, and having the right understanding of the kind of behaviors you're supposed to be depicting as an employee. All of these factors are related to role perceptions, and they have an impact on individual performance and behavior. There are also situational factors, which could be internal or external. Internal being organizational policies or the work environment. It could be external situational factors that can impact performance and behavior of individuals or groups, such as the most recent example could be COVID-19 and how it impacted our performance levels. This was an external element that impacted our performances and behaviors in teams. So there could be other situational factors in terms of limitation on time, on resources, budget constraints. There are a lot of things that can be falling in this category of situational factors. To further explain Mar's model of individual behavior, I would like to highlight that there are multiple factors that impact motivation and employee engagement, and it's not just motivation, ability, role, and situation. It's also individual characteristics. Every individual has a different personality, they have different values, self-concept, perceptions, emotions, attitudes, and stress. Stress could be positive stress, such as being competitive within teams. It could be negative stress that could result in possibly counterproductive work behaviors and so on. All of these factors also play a critical role in performance of teams and employees. As already mentioned, motivation, abilities, and role perceptions certainly have an important impact on the behavior and performance of teams and individuals. Situational factors can have an impact, and these are some of the results that could be achieved in terms of task performance, organizational citizenship, counterproductive behaviors, staying with the organization or leaving the organization, attendance, and all of these factors summarize the Mar's model of individual behavior. Mar's model of individual behavior talks about direct influence on voluntary behavior and performances. This is the word voluntary has to be underlined and focused on. This is coming from within, and it's a choice that an employee has. And they have a direct result, direct impact on employee performance, on customer service, on the integrity levels, their teamwork, and several other points that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So in a nutshell, this model helps us understand why we see results sometimes and we don't the other times. So Mar's model is an amazing model and a framework that can be used by HR professionals and people managers in understanding motivation better and devising motivational strategies, reward and recognition programs that can help in achieving better performance. And it also helps in getting a second level understanding of an employee and their behaviors. Let's talk a little bit about counterproductive behaviors. What are counterproductive behaviors? Harassing coworkers, creating unnecessary conflicts, compromising quality by taking shortcuts, not following the processes and procedures, being untruthful, stealing, sabotaging, wasting resources. These are quite severe and negative behaviors that an employee can display, and it can have a very negative impact on the organization in terms of performance, in terms of achieving goals, and so on. There could be several factors that could be causing this behavior, and implied motivation could be one of those factors. If an individual is not motivated or is motivated for the wrong reasons, is not engaged in the right way, it could result in counterproductive behaviors. And these behaviors, without any doubt, would have a serious impact on the effectiveness and performance of the organization. And therefore, the moment such behaviors are identified, they should be addressed. There should be a strategy to resolve them. There should be one-on-one meetings conducted, and solutions created so that they can these counterproductive behaviors are reversed. Attrition. Attrition is another negative impact of lack of motivation, and attrition definitely has a huge impact on the performance of the organization. You lose valuable knowledge, skills, and relationships, both internal and external relationships that an employee develops. That's a huge loss to the organization. Cost of the organization goes up when an individual leaves the organization, because you have to spend on hiring process and then the training process, and then there's a long a learning curve that has to be covered before an employee reaches that level of proficiency where they're able to perform as well as the person who left the organization. So all of these factors have a direct negative impact on employee performance, and this is why HR professionals spend a lot of time focusing on employee retention, and there should be engagement activities devised for employees for this reason, because when an employee decides to leave, it becomes very difficult for you to retain that individual, because psychologically, this individual has already made a decision to move on. And retaining the individual by increasing the salary may work sometimes, but most of the times this is not a choice that's available with the organization because of budgetary constraints, and other times the individual may have made up his mind. So retaining that individual at that moment does not work. So employee retention is something that goes on parallelly all the time, right from the start of an individual joining the organization. Absenteeism and lateness has negative impacts, and this is a common sign of most of the employees mention reasons such as situational factors, personal problems, family issues, transport issues that result in them being late and absent. However, the interesting thing to note over here is that there are other individuals who are so intrinsically motivated that they find out ways to be at work on time in spite of all the challenges. So why is it that there are certain individuals who end up being late or absent from work, whereas there are others who don't? And the answer is, again, employee motivation. If an employee is motivated and he has that organizational citizenship factor in him, um, they will find ways to be at work on time and not be absent, and therefore have a positive impact on the organizational performance. Lateness and absenteeism results in loss of time, lower morale in work environment, and decreased productivity. Job characteristic model by J.R. Hackman and G.R. Oldham is a very good tool that HR professionals can use to motivate employees. By making changes in the job design of employees, you are able to increase the performance and satisfaction levels and lower the absenteeism and turnover of employees. Number one, skill variety. By adding a range of skills and activities that require them to use different knowledge and competencies, the employee can experience more job satisfaction because they feel they're using different skills and they are engaging and they're intellectually being stimulated as an individual. Task identity, the amount of recognition an employee's work gets is task identity. If an individual's work gets recognized, showcased, appreciated by the organization, it will directly impact that employee's motivation levels. Task significance basically refers to adding more meaning to the job. If an employee understands the significance of what he or she does, chances are they will feel more motivated to work because they understand how important their work is. For example, we hear stories about doctors and medical professionals on how they go out of the way to do their job. It's because they understand the significance their job has and the impact that they make to people around them. Autonomy. The more freedom and flexibility an individual gets in a job, in terms of possibly choosing their working hours or getting authority to approve various decisions, all can result in higher level of motivation. And constant feedback. As human beings, we are hardwired to seek feedback, and the newer generation is even more insistent on getting feedback on everything that they do because they want to know if they're going in the right direction. So constant and regular feedback, whether an individual is performing well or has performance issues, has a great impact on motivation level. So these 5 factors, if incorporated in job design, it can result in higher level of motivation by and as a result, it can result in higher performance, organizational performance and effectiveness. This brings me to the end of the presentation. I really appreciate this opportunity and look forward to more assignments like this and your feedback on this presentation. Thank you so much.